One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey folks, Sam Jacobs, Sales Hacker Podcast. Welcome. Today on the show, we've got Ryan Walsh. Ryan is the founder and CEO of a company called RepVue. It's a really interesting company. It's a place where you can get objective third-party information. Well, it's actually first-party. It's objective information from reps themselves about how much people make at different companies. And you can access that data set once you contribute your own information on a blinded basis so that you can figure out exactly what people are making. You can't look at their individual W-2s, but you can know exactly that if you work at XYZ company, that you can make up to $700,000 a year. This is how many people make it. One person made it. Most people make this, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really interesting transparency, especially for larger sales organizations when you're trying to figure out what is the actual deal. So good conversation. Before we get there, we have two sponsors. The first sponsor is Sapper Consulting. I've read this a number of times now, this copy, and it's exhausting. It takes a lot, but here we go. I'm going to do it in character. Sales enablement is easy. All you have to do is create perfectly targeted content, stay informed on email best practices, drive more engagement quarter over quarter, spend less money. And do all of this with less time. Okay, it's not that easy, but Sapper Consulting has built Reggie to keep the promise of sales enablement alive and keep your team doing what they do best, which is winning. Reggie is spelled with one G. It's R-E-G-I-E. Reggie uses artificial intelligence to create entire outbound, inbound, and even follow-up sales campaigns faster. Using over 1 billion rows of performance data across 75 industries, Reggie uses your targeting to inform your campaigns, decreases the time your team spends creating campaigns, and because the campaigns are structured on email best practices, your campaign warm-up period will shrink. The result, more sales meetings, more money. The word campaign, again, all of the things. Start creating better sequences faster. Visit go.regie.io, go.regie.io. Second sponsor, Outreach, the #1 sales engagement platform. Outreach revolutionizes customer engagement by making sure that you're not just talking to the customer and there's no data and no information that's provided back to the organization and that 50 different people aren't talking to the customer. Instead, there's one continuous, streamlined, customer-centric journey. Leveraging the next generation of artificial intelligence, Outreach allows sales reps to deliver consistent, relevant, and responsible communication for each prospect every time, enabling personalization at scale previously unthinkable. Don't know, just a question mark about their insertion of the word responsible there, but I guess it's good. Let's not send irresponsible communication. Anyway, check them out at www.outreach.io. Incredible company, great group of people, and Ryan Walsh is a great interview and he's a great person, so listen to it now. Hey everybody, it's Sam Jacobs. Welcome to the Sales Hacker Podcast. We're super excited to have on the show the CEO and founder of a company called RepVue, which we're going to learn all about, a guy named Ryan Walsh. Ryan has been building and scaling companies on the sales side for over 20 years. Most recently was the CRO of a SaaS company that grew from 35 million when he joined to 120 million. And he helped lead that company through an IPO. And this was all before he started working on RepVue full time. So we're excited to have him on the show. Ryan, welcome to the Sales Hacker Podcast.
Awesome. Sam, it's great to be here. And I appreciate you having me on the show.
We're excited to have you. So as loyal listeners will know, we always start with your baseball card, which is really just a way of saying, let's learn a little bit about Ryan. So we know your name. You're the founder and CEO of a company called RepVue. Yep. What is RepVue? Tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll try not to go into too much detail on the backstory, but you hit it. I've been in sales for 20 years and, starting out carrying a bag, sales professional, individual contributor for many years at ChannelVisor. And actually, I was a day one employee at ChannelVisor. The time from 35 million to 120 million was just the part where I was actually leading the sales org. So
Oh, wow. Sorry for misstating that.
Yeah, no worries. So that was a great run. I was at that one company for, I believe, 16 years. Yeah, 16 years, which to people would scream that's absolutely crazy now, given how things are today. But coming out of ChannelVisor, in early 2017, I did some consulting, and some of the same problems came up over and over again related to the lack and the diminishing number of sales professionals hitting their quota, the high turnover of sales professionals, and frankly, the lack of transparency of sales organizations during the interview process for sales professionals. So when a sales professional interviews at a company, all of that information flow is one way from the candidate to the company. And there's just a lack of information flow from the company to the sales professional. In many cases, that doesn't mean it's nefarious. In some cases, it does. Hiring managers are also just trying to sell as well. So what can we build to allow sales professionals access to better structured information about sales orgs so that they can make the best decision for their careers? And that's really where RepVue was born, which is probably now the world's largest socially sourced set of ratings about sales organizations on the planet. And most of our data now is with software companies because that's my background. But you as a sales professional can go to RepVue and view detailed analytics about sales organizations related to compensation data. What do reps like in terms of culture, product, incentive comp structure? How many people are hitting quota? If I'm a top performer, how much can I make in real dollars and real numbers? And it's always free for users. It's a model where if you're a user, just give us one piece of data and you can have access to the entire data set. And we're just getting started, and it's a huge, huge mission, but one that I want to, first of all, thank all of our listeners out there who are RepVue users. They're really the ones making it happen, and we're just collecting and aggregating this data and presenting it in a consumable way. So that's RepVue. That's our mission. We're very much in the early innings, and we're excited to see where it goes.
First of all, that's awesome. So walk us through the flow, only because I'm interested. Don't feel like you don't have to feel like you're overselling or anything. But so if I'm a rep, I create a profile, and as part of that profile, I say I work at XYZ company. This is the comp plan. This is what I'm making, and basically willingly share my salary information, my comp information, and then you say, "Don't worry, we'll anonymize it and make it part of a broad data set," and then you repurpose that back to all of the rest of the community so that when someone else wants to work at XYZ company, they have more information. Is that right?
Close. Yeah. So let me clarify a couple of things. And you touched on anonymity, which is exceptionally important to us. So you don't actually create a profile. You just, the registration process is the ratings process. So on RepVue, you go to the site and you enter in a rating. At the last piece of that rating is your email address, and then you're registered. There's no public profile or anything like that. Once you're registered, then you have access to all the content and information on our site. And where you were spot on is that this is not a review site. You don't leave your opinions, okay? It's structured data. The ratings process takes about 2 minutes to complete for one rating. And we encourage all of our users to rate current and former sales orgs as long as it's just been maybe 3 or less years since they've been there. Once you complete that rating, you're a user. You can access everything on the site. We do not publish that ratings data. What we do is, to your point, we aggregate that data with other ratings from that same organization. And once we collect a minimum amount of data for a company profile page, for example, that's 7 unique ratings, then we'll publish that company page. So people ask me all the time, "Hey, I'd like to join, I'd like to rate, but I don't see my company on your site." Now we have over 1,000 sales orgs that have been rated, and about 140 live of the most well-known sales orgs in the world that are published. All the sales orgs in software that our users are very much accustomed to seeing out there. So that's really it. It's essentially a consortium model, right? You give us one piece of data. It's totally anonymous, super lightweight lift, because salespeople like me have a short attention span and get distracted easily. And then you're in, and then you can leverage everything that RepVue has to offer, including sales compensation data and organizational data, strengths and weaknesses.
What's the business model? Do you create broader, richer data sets and sell those back to companies for benchmarking purposes, or how do you make money?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So there's really 3 ways, and you just touched on one of them, which is sales organizations do care about their people, right? I mean, I think that's clear, and they want to do better. And so we have access to data on what they're doing well and what they're not doing well. And we have a console where organizations can access that data. Everything we do at RepVue is based on data. What we present to our users is based on data. What we can present to employers is based on data. So that is one of them. The other piece is talent. So users come to us all the time and they say, "Hey, is this company looks awesome? Are they hiring?" And so we're actually starting to put jobs on the site. And for users, if you see a job on our site, you click on that job to raise your hand that you're interested in that job. That goes to the hiring manager. And if you get hired, RepVue will actually pay you $500. And that's because we're getting paid by that organization to make that placement. And we're going to share some of that upside with our users in the form of $500. So we're
Well, that's
starting
pretty
to see
cool.
some jobs. Yeah. And the third piece is we're really anxious to disrupt an age-old industry that is sales compensation benchmarking and analytics, which generally speaking is a year old. You purchase these PDF-looking things for tens of thousands of dollars, and you can benchmark industries. But with RepVue, we own the data, and companies can benchmark other companies. Hey, I'm Salesforce. I'm HubSpot. I'm HubSpot. I want to see what Salesforce AEs make in Boston, for example. And not only is it not last year's data, some of that data is from this morning or yesterday as it comes in. So it's just a deeper, richer set of data. And the only thing standing in our way is continuing to grow that data set.
That's awesome. What have you learned? I mean, you're sitting on, because, on LinkedIn every day, there's somebody talking about some random factoid that they grabbed from some HBR report or some Pacific Crest survey. But what have you learned about general quota attainment, about how salespeople are performing, maybe even about what you've seen since COVID hit? But just curious, given the data set that you're sitting on, what are some interesting insights that you've been able to pull?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, we hear anecdotally about quota attainment dropping, and I think it's dropping worse than what we think. The data that we have shows that overall industry, and I'll say software, I'd say about 80% of our ratings are for software, maybe a little bit higher, and the ones that aren't are generally, kind of related industries, IT services, and those sorts of things. I think it's lower than what we think it is. I think, it's easy to inflate that for companies during the hiring process. We're showing about 43%.
Oh my.
And to be clear, that's what is the percent of the team that hits quota. That's not the average quota attainment across the team, right? And I think that's a little bit high. And the reason I say it's a little bit high is because I think, as we continue to tweak and work our language, get more and more accurate, and just what I'm seeing, I actually think it's more like around 39%. And so that's a problem, and why is that? And is it worse in software? We're seeing it pretty consistent across other industries as well. But why is that? And I think companies seem to be still doing well, right? So where is that disconnect, and how much quota, kind of buffer is there in 3 levels and 4 levels and 5 levels of management? Is that part of it? Is it venture capital that pours so much money into some of these software organizations, and they're forced to grow, and it's literally just a bodies game, right? And just throw bodies at it, and we know we're gonna have some high attrition, but we can get this thing packaged up and exited in a few years, then that's worth it. Well, yeah, it's not worth it though to the people that are on the front lines that are actually doing the selling, that are essentially, disposable bodies to hit some portion of the quota that equates to the company hitting their target. So, I think what I've learned is that sales professionals need this visibility. And I think, our goal is absolutely not to disparage organizations or people or companies, but I think that transparency is really, really well needed in the industry as well. And the other thing I learned is it's very, very hard to build a two-sided marketplace. Sam, I don't know how much you know about building two-sided marketplace, but it's very, very hard. But we're
Tell me why you
it.
say that. What's been hard about it?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So for those who don't know really what a two-sided marketplace is, it's when you build a business that's reliant on essentially two sets of users or constituents to be successful. So for us, it's users, which drives our data, and then employers, which ultimately will drive our revenue. And so you have to have one to have the other. We started with users because ultimately data is really the foundation on which our entire business is built. Users drive data, and then data drives more users, and then more users drives more data. The concept of a data network effect is every data point that you inject into that system, the more valuable that data set is. Not only, I'm not necessarily even talking about enterprise value, I'm talking more about the value proposition to a user. Why would I want to go to RepVue and stick a rating in there? Well, hey, we have 60 companies. Hey, we have 100 companies. And hey, we have 500 companies in there. Hey, there's 1 million data points in there, right? So the data network effect essentially compounds the value to users. But you got to start somewhere, right? You have nothing. So who was the first user that did a rating, and why in the world would they ever do that, right? So So without getting into all the gory details, that's the challenge, right? And so you essentially just have to work like hell to get those first 1,000 ratings, right? And get the, and grind. And then you start seeing some traction on the other side of the equation. So that's a network effect. A lot of people probably think it's crazy. That's why there's not a lot of these out there. That's why RepVue doesn't exist. Not only is it hard, but the people with the technical skills and know how to do it don't care about sales, and they may care more about engineering and that sort of thing. So, that's the concept of a two-sided marketplace or a network effect, and feel really good about where we are in terms of our development cycle of that two-sided marketplace. Now that we're starting to engage with employers on the other side and seeing, accelerating ratings growth. I'll do a comparison. In our first year, we launched in Q4. And so we'll call this our first year. We'll do about 95% of the count of ratings that G2 did in their first year, while spending only about 5% of the total spend, maybe 10% of the total spend that they spent. And we haven't paid for a single one of our ratings yet. It's all essentially been organic and LinkedIn recruiting, word of mouth. So we feel really good about that and the long-term prospects for this, for RepVue as not only a two-sided marketplace, but a kind of a vertical talent marketplace.
Any fun growth hack or dark arts stories about, to your point, because launching that two-sided, to your point, the initial traction is the hardest part. Did you all do anything interesting, clever at the beginning to get that initial traction?
Yeah, well, so if people ask, sometimes you see this on like LinkedIn, thought leaders like, hey, any sales hacks out there? I'm like, most of the sales hacks really it's just hard work, right? You have to just do the work, right? So also, I'll give you a couple points of background, right? So for the first year, and I've gone full time on RepVue Q1 this year. Last year, I was about 50% of my time, but when we really saw it taking on big time, I'm now 100% focused on it. I spend probably 3 to 4 hours a day personally recruiting users and engaging with users. It's not just to recruit somebody to do a rating; it's to build a connection and explain the value proposition and engage with people. Another one, people love T-shirts. Sam, I don't know if you know that, but people love T-shirts, and so
that's a very useful factoid right there.
Yes, RepVue swag. I get people post pictures of themselves wearing RepVue T-shirts. I've seen them at stadiums pre-COVID. I've seen them in on LinkedIn, on Twitter. People love their T-shirts. So right now, anybody that does 3 ratings, which would be my current and my most recent 2 sales orgs, we send them a RepVue T-shirt, and they just friggin' love it. They love T-shirts, and and I had one funny story. A guy had messaged me on LinkedIn. He said, "Yeah, I saw your message a couple months ago, but I totally blew you off. And then I saw my roommate rocking a RepVue T-shirt. So how can I get one of those?"
That's awesome.
Yeah. So people love their T-shirts, and so we, at first I was like, "Oh, just do this for a little while," but we're keeping the T-shirts. So if you don't have your T-shirt yet, stick a couple more ratings in there and get a
Put
T-shirt.
That in your business plan, page 2, marketing, free T-shirts.
Yes. Yep. I'm right. Sam needs T-shirt is on my to-do list here.
Oh, perfect. Well,
yeah.
As soon as I get a request from you for my home mailing address, I'll know what's going on.
Yep. There you go.
We talked about, and I'm actually not familiar with ChannelVisor, so if you would like to tell us what that company did and does, that would be great. But
Sure.
I'm super curious. You've been building and running and leading teams, sales teams, and like many of us, including me, I was doing the same thing, and now I run my own thing. For you, what's been the biggest surprise? What's been the thing where maybe, over the 20 years or 16 years that you were working at ChannelVisor, you were muttering under your breath saying, these turkeys don't know what they're doing. And now you're in the seat and realizing that maybe they weren't turkeys after all. Maybe some of the decisions weren't quite as simple as you thought. Or has there been nothing that's, you knew it was going to be hard work, it's hard work, and you're just marching out? What's been surprising to you, if anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so for those who don't know ChannelVisor, a lot of people might not know it as any type of consumer brand. ChannelVisor is essentially plumbing to allow merchants who sell products online to engage and integrate with third-party marketplaces. So if you've bought stuff on Amazon, it's more than likely ChannelVisor has powered some of those transactions. So if you want to sell on eBay, on Amazon, on Walmart, on hundreds of other channels throughout the world, then ChannelVisor can help you get on those channels in a seamless, efficient way. So it's essentially plumbing to connect your back-end systems to the back-end systems of those marketplaces. And so to your question, I think what you'll realize if you go from where somebody like myself or you or others are, and they want to do something themselves, I think it's just a vast number and disparate and variety of decisions that come at you on a regular basis that are related to things that in my last job as the chief revenue officer at a public company, right? I was in my lane, right? And I did what I needed to do. And, I'm not dealing with payroll software. I'm not dealing with, all the little things that, outside counsel to get something little, HR thing, or, doing the books, which is what I'm doing. Right. And so I think that it is, you said, is it just hard work? It's all hard work, but it's also your scope of decisions and your scope of type of work expands almost, I would say, immediately and infinitely. So you just have to be prepared for that. And if you really believe in the mission, that stuff is not, you don't hate doing it. You enjoy doing it because essentially, everything that you do and every step that you take gets you closer to that goal of achieving that mission of the business that you're building.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point. You know what always it strikes me is that I used to be a musician, and basically you spend the first time you write a song on an acoustic guitar, which is where I write my songs, you hear it's sort of like a revelation. It's like you hear it in your head and it's beautiful. And then you spend, if that song ever makes it to a recording, it's going to be 2 to 3 years from the moment that you strum those chords, and you are going to live with that song for so long that you're going to be so tired of it. And by the time the song comes out, you're not even going to really appreciate it because because you've written 20 new songs, and those are the ones that you can't wait to. And I feel like when you're running a company, you just, the level of chaos of like your awareness of how poorly you are doing certain things, and your understanding with yourself that that's okay, because you're not really giving yourself credit for all of the things that you've already fixed. You're only focused on the fact that this thing could be so much better, and you're so impatient to get there. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that, which is just, you are aware that you're doing a C job on a number of different activities, and you just have to accept that and say, that's okay. I'm going to perpetually feel like I'm not doing the job that I want because I have this vision of what it could be, and that vision is always going to be expanding.
Yes, 100%. 100%. I have that feeling on a regular, if not daily basis, which a good parallel is we have an employer console that for our offering that as we're starting to monetize the platform, employers log into. I demo that on a regular basis now. We're starting to demo that, and it's not perfect, right? It's 1.0. There are little things, nits that in prior life, if I'm the CRO of a large company, I'm like, you cannot demo this with that and that and that. And how would you even cancel the call, move that call to next week and get the developers over here? Let's fix this. But your mindset has to change, right? What's more important, getting this done, having this call, moving this ball forward now, or you can't let perfect get in the way of good, which I think sometimes you get that mentality at a say quote unquote larger organization. And I think that's a great point about, you have to step back. Sometimes people will say, man, this is amazing what you've built. And then you think, all right, well, yeah, we definitely have come a long way, even though we know the warts are there. And it's a challenge, but I think, I'm very fortunate. This two-sided marketplace challenge also comes with the benefit that I engage with users every single day. And maybe I don't always have all these employers are like, oh, we want to buy your thing, your platform. But every single day we have users who just love it. They love the platform and they encourage what we're doing. And that's really what drives us, which has been great.
Yeah, no. And I love the story you said about, user by user, salesperson by salesperson, you're on the phone with them. So many people don't realize, they look at activity and feel like, well, that's not scalable. And they just, without the appreciation that it is hard, but if you just do it every day for a long period of time, you'll be amazed. You can go way further than you think you can in that same period of time. How has it been managing a technical team for you as a non-technical? you may be, maybe you are an engineer now, but I would imagine that the challenge is always, dealing with people with an entirely different skill set, and just finding a CTO or a head of engineering or a counterpart that you really trust, so that when they tell you this thing is delayed, you believe it. How has that been for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So our engineering team is offshore, and so that adds another layer of complexity into it. And while I don't technically have a full-on co-founder on the technical side, I do have a part-time CTO who actually was the co-founder of Channel Advisor, and I've worked with for the better part of 20 years. He's the co-founder and CTO of Channel Advisor, Aris Bonavichus, and Aris. And it took me that long to learn how to pronounce his last name as well.
Yeah, that rolled off your tongue. That was impressive.
Yeah, that was about an 18-year process, which I'm there, and I'm mostly there on spelling. But Aris, so he's had numerous successful exits, and he's the CTO of those companies, and he has been an incredible resource for me. Participates in all of our weekly tech calls. He helps write some of the product specs that are more data, kind of database heavy and back end heavy. When I try and do that, he rewrites them most of the time, as well, as I'm not a developer, not an engineer by trade or training or education or anything, to be honest with you. So I have the fortunate luck, or whatever you want to call it, that he is very much engaged as a part-time CTO, advisor, technical advisor, and also investor in RepVue.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's my next question, which is, even as you are providing a layer of transparency into venture capital backed sales driven cultures, are you going to be seeking venture capital, or do you have a financing strategy that relates to your vision for the business?
Yeah, it's a challenge, right? Before we started, it's a challenge in terms of my thought process. I'll say that. We're raising some money right now. It's not venture capital money. It's more of a kind of seed/angel round. And that's pretty much wrapped up at this point. And that the goal there is to get us to mid-year next year, at which point we'll have a much better grasp on what the paid acquisition might look like for a user. And then we can develop, deliver, and communicate what that model would look like. And really, at that point, is to make a decision: do we want to pour venture capital fuel on it, or do we not? And I'm certainly open to it, but not 100% committed to it. And part of the reason is because I, over my career, have, I'm adverse to significantly inefficient spending of any capital: venture capital, my capital, customers' capital. Fund it from customers if you can. But I understand the flip side of that, which is the type of business that we're in. It's like, get to the largest data set as soon as you possibly can. So that's the decision point that we'll come to, and we'll be in a position probably Q1, Q2 next year to make that decision based on the data set, as well as the interest that we have from those venture capital parties, as well as what our customer base will look like at the time.
Well, good luck. My thought for the day, which was on my run this morning, is that so many people raise rounds of financing at meaningful valuations and don't take any money off the table. And if you think about how difficult it is to build a company worth $50 million, $30 million, $80 million, $100 million, it's pretty hard. And to not get anything for that feels like a missed opportunity. So I would encourage,
Sure.
That's just a seed I'm planting.
Yes.
because you got to, it's just funny sometimes that these companies, they make the trade at some massive valuation, but nobody makes any money. And I understand that you want to pour that money into the business, but at the same time, like, if you're thinking about the degree of difficulty to reach that valuation in the first place, like, it just stands to reason that you would extract something for achieving that milestone. But what do I know?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that guidance. And I think, my wife would tell you that, Ryan, you've been paying to work now for some time, and at some point it's time to get paid to work. As a former CRO of a reasonably large company, I could get paid to work somewhere, but right now I'm choosing to pay to work, and so we'll have to figure that return on investment out down the road, but we'll figure it out for sure.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. It's been great having you on the show. Before we go, we like to pay it forward a little bit and just hear about some of the people that have been really influential in your life, or ideas. It could be books that you've read. I know you're a big reader. When you think about ideas, people, things that form, what's rattling around in your brain these days in terms of inspiration, what comes to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you mentioned books, I do read. I haven't read as much in the last few months since I've been grinding so hard on this, but so many people ask me, what are your sales books that you read? What sales book should I read? And I'm usually like, when I'm not working and selling, sometimes I like to get away from that a little bit, so I love business books, general business books. The people that appreciate Bad Blood, the Theranos story, I think would also be interested in one from about 20 years prior, which is The Smartest Guys in the Room, which you think Bad Blood was so crazy. The Smartest Guys in the Room is the Enron story. I don't know if you read that one, Sam, but it is just
I worked at Enron.
Oh, you did? Oh my gosh.
In 1998, I was a summer intern there.
Yeah.
Man, that was the height.
401k. How's the 401k?
That's not so good. I mean, they, anyway, you're right that it's, they made a movie. That's what I saw. I did not read the book. I want to be honest about it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's unbelievable. So yeah, I think, I love that kind of stuff. Some of the, like Shoe Dog, the Nike one, and I read history books. Wright Brothers was one I read a couple months ago that I enjoyed.
I read that. Great book. David McCullough.
Yep. Yeah, that's fun. So yeah, I do like to kind of do some things, whether it's reading or family stuff, that I can kind of separate. So if I'm reading a book, it's highly unlikely it is a sales book. Yeah. I've read a few, and they can be motivational, but other than that, I'm trying to get something different. And I actually I ask people that in interviews sometimes, what do you read? And because intellectual curiosity to me is an interesting trait for
it's the most important trait.
Absolutely. So, I'm curious. Are others curious? Maybe not.
I read the Wright Brothers book, and what I was thinking about, because I was in the Outer Banks this past weekend, they're startup guys. That's what they are. They were just they trying different ideas. It just felt their personality type is very familiar to any of us that are working at venture capital backed companies, because that's what they were. They were business guys. They were obsessed with flight, but it became a company.
Yeah.
They're cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a great book.
Ryan, this is awesome. We've got hopefully a number of people that are rushing over to RepVue to fill out their information and get access to the data. But so first of all, if I'm a salesperson listening and I want to help you out and support the cause and get a t-shirt, where do I go? What do I do? How do I spell RepVue?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So www.repvue.com, RepVue. I am super easy to find on LinkedIn. Send me a note, send me a message, send me a connection request. Tell me why, where you heard me or anything like that. I will connect with you. I will engage with you. I will chat with you. And anywhere on the RepVue homepage, just click Rate Now. It takes 2 minutes to submit a rating, totally anonymous. If you do 3, you'll get a RepVue t-shirt. You'll love it. It'll be your favorite t-shirt immediately. And yeah, like I said, I engage with people all the time. We're building this based on feedback from sales professionals as well. So we'd love to hear from you and have you as part of our ecosystem and part of our community. And so that would be great. And let me know what you think about it.
We will. Ryan, we'll talk to you on Friday for Friday Fundamentals, but thanks so much for being on the show. It's great talking to you, and congrats on RepVue.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sam. It's always great chatting with you, and I appreciate you having me on.
Hey folks, Sam Jacobs, Sam's Corner. I really like that conversation with Ryan Walsh. I like people that build businesses, come hell or high water. And RepVue was bootstrapped for a long period of time before they even thought about raising capital. And he's built the business in the right way. He's coming at it from deep industry expertise because he spent 25 years being a sales leader, working at a number of different companies and really helping scale those organizations. And the consequence of all of that is that he's got something that's really, really interesting, because compensation does need to be more transparent, and there needs to be more information and power in the hands of the actual rep, as opposed to the company themselves always having all the power and all of the information. So I really liked that conversation. I hope you got something out of it. Ryan's already sent me a RepVue t-shirt, so of course I'm going to be repping RepVue wherever I go, particularly if I go on a run. And I always just also love to hear about companies that are started outside of New York City and San Francisco. And this company in particular was started in North Carolina. So it's a great story. I hope you check them out. And I really like the conversation. And I like getting to know Ryan. Before we go, of course, we want to thank our sponsors. Sapper Consulting created Reggie, and Reggie uses artificial intelligence to create entire inbound, outbound, and even follow-up sales campaigns faster. Go to go.regie.io for more information, go.regie.io. And also thanks, of course, to Outreach, the #1 sales engagement platform, tripling the productivity of salespeople and customer success people the world over. Check them out at www.outreach.io. If you want to reach out to me, you can, sam@revenuecollective.com or linkedin.com/Sam F. Jacobs. If you want to join Revenue Collective and accelerate your career, get the job you always wanted, negotiate it for more effectively, and once you get that job, be supercharged because you've got a community of over 3,000 experts that are at your back providing support. If any of those things sound interesting to you, go to revenuecollective.com and click apply now. Without further ado, I'll talk to you next time.